Howdy once again, it's tubalcain, your YouTube shop teacher, this time with another video about drill press vices, and this is really a follow-up video to the three-part video series where I made the Casting Specialties struck drill press vise. So here's my collection, if you want to call that, of 25 or more drill press vices. I know it's crazy, but I'm not really going to talk much about those. I may make a separate video about that, but the whole idea of this video, and it's strictly talking, no chip making. So you have this opportunity to turn it off without complaints. So in making the video, there were a lot of views on it, very well received for a change. And also a lot of suggestions, advice, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to cover a lot of that and tell you maybe what I should have done or what I will do in the future regarding this little vise, and talk about where you can get a casting now to make your own. So you may find this interesting, but again, it's strictly talking. So do you have drill press vices like this in your shop? This is a fair warning to those of you that do not want to hear me talk. There will be no machining, no producing of chips in this video, so turn the video off if you do not like that. But you might want to look at these three recent videos where I make the struck drill press vise, or you may not know what this is all about. So let's get on with this talking, strictly talking. This is a view of some of my drill press vices, and I have more out in the cold garage. However, I wasn't in the mood for going out. Now, does a person need 25 or more drill press vices? Absolutely not. The whole concept here is insane. And I might have a follow-up video where I talk about these vices, because there's quite a few different kinds here, and I think some of you might find that interesting. But really what I wanted to talk about here is this one that I made in a recent video, and just bloviate about it a little bit and tell you about some improvements and suggestions. There were a lot of viewers in these videos, and I got some good suggestions and good ideas, possibly some that I would implement if I were to redo the videos, which I have no intention of doing. First of all, let me say that I had many requests from people saying, where can I buy the castings? And I said, well, you can't. This company is long out of business. Mr. Struck is dead. The company has changed, and they make the little Magnatrack tractors. They got a website, and you've seen that. However, somebody said, well, tubalcain, you're wrong. There's an outfit in Ohio still offering this vise. So let's go up to the computer real quick and let me show you that. Now I'm sitting at my computer, and the website that I am at presently is called OKeefe Casting Company, and they're out of Ohio. I'll show you the web address to that in a minute, but when I click here on project kits, they do in fact have two educational project kits along with drawings, and I'll show you this one here. It's called the Drill Press Project Kit, and there it is for $18. And it explains that, and notice that it appears to be the identical casting along with drawings, but they are not the struck drawings. Several sheets of drawings. I thought that is so awesome that that thing is still kicking around. Can you see the similarity? I wonder if they're made from the original patterns from struck. And there are the instructions, but the instructions are marked OKeefe Casting. So isn't that awesome? So anybody that wants one of those could order them. The problem here is that for $18, of course, you can buy a Chinese vise ready to use. But if you want to make your own, you know, cost is no object, and there it is. But of course, you've got shipping to deal with as well. Now, as long as I'm talking about casting suppliers, here's several companies. Number one there is what I just showed you, along with their website. Number two is out of England, called College and Engineering Supply, and they have assorted casting kits. And number three, Hemingway Kits, also in England. They have casting kits on angle plates, surface plates, a power hacksaw, and Randy Richards in the shop made one of their products, and it's on his website. So check all of those out. I think you'll find it interesting. Now, I ordered something off of eBay before I made this video, and actually this video is made over a period of days, and I'm inserting some clips here that are really non sequiturs. But anyway, this came in the mail just minutes ago, and there it is. I bought that over eBay, as I said, from this man in New York, because someone had directed me to an eBay auction, and they're little vises. These are cast iron. I forgot what I paid for these now. Something like $15, $18, $20. This is cast iron. There's a set of instructions, or I should say a blueprint. That's upstairs in my easy chair because I was going to start looking them over. Here is the jaw, but the jaw is big enough to make the two jaws. And this is a small model maker's vise, not unlike these that I made in a video last year, but this is actually sized a little bit more like this little vise. So I will be making this probably next year as a video, and they included screws, and I'm not sure what these other parts are, but there's a possibility for you people that have smaller machines, want something to do, want a useful project, and there you go. I thought that was neat, and I wanted to share that with you before I got on with the video. So now, before I get on to the meat of this video, I'm going to break here real quickly and show you about a 2-minute segment of the original video, and that's the title of it, where I purchased the castings for this and show them off in that video. So I'm going to cut to that right now, if you'll bear with me on that, and then back to what I was talking about here. So here we are just after the auction. This was one of my favorite boxes, even though it doesn't look like much to you. There's a couple pieces of make a key there and some other scrap that isn't of any value. There's a weird looking brass nut. I don't know what that is out of. But why I bought this box was there's a rough casting here for a drill press vise. Now I recognize that. This is a struck casting from Cedarburg, Wisconsin, for a drill press vise, and the company was called, was owned by Mr. Struck. The company was called Casting Specialties, and I used to buy these for the high school. They came with the jaw, rough cast, and a blueprint, and other parts that you might need, screws and hardware. And I intend to do a video of this, even though I don't have the blueprint. I think I got some of those dimensions memorized, even though it's been 35 years. But someone had started on this. That is, they ground or milled the bottom and the sides, and I think even in here. How accurately, I don't know. And then they gave up or died or whatever. I don't know. But, and I'm kind of glad in a way, because getting through that fire scale with milling cutters is pretty difficult because it ruins the cutters. But there you can see the fire scale on this. But that'll make a neat little video, I think, of the different operations that you have to go through to make a vise. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that little part there, or didn't think it was too much. Anyway, I just made a discovery just minutes ago, and that was partly because of what I discovered in that video that I went back and looked at, and I hadn't looked at it in 7 months. But anyway, near the end of the video, I didn't show you that. You'd have to go back into the video to see that. But I discovered that I also bought another drill press vise, and I immediately set it aside because it was, and I believe is, a piece of junk, and here it is. This is a die-cast Dunlap drill press vise, and I had one of these at one other time, and it was bent. Someone exerted so much pressure on it that this whole body was bent. But this is made of zinc. It's die cast. You can see the injection marks there. But now the reason I'm showing you this is kind of a surprise to me. Maybe it is to you too. But look at this. This vise from Dunlap is absolutely identical to this vise. In dimensions, in shape, everything about it is the same. Now, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did Dunlap copy that from Mr. Struck, or did Mr. Struck copy that from Dunlap? And I don't really know how old this is, but Mr. Struck, Clarence Struck's school-tested shop project, that's what he called them, school-tested shop projects, probably were maybe even the late 40s or early 50s. So I just thought this was really amazing. So it's a pretty neat design, but you know, they are absolutely identical, aren't they? All right, now I got something else to show you. Well, apparently there were many that did not like the balls here on the end of the vise, didn't like the appearance or whatever, and gave me other suggestions. And one of them was, why don't you just take an acorn nut, that's a 1/4 acorn nut, already got a nice little sphere on the end, and turn it down. So I did just that. It turned out that that was a brass nut, plated, nickel plated. But that makes a rather nice looking end. So I had never thought about that, and you can of course get these at any hardware store. So that's an idea. Now another thing, it was my own idea, and I had considered it when I made the vise, and that was to make it out of hex stock. And on a larger vise this is useful because you could put a wrench on there if the handle isn't long enough. And I like those knobs. This is a pomegranate vise. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now I had been talking for some time about my old company called Peterson Products. I noticed that's when I still lived in Peru. And I had 10 projects. There's only 9. This is one of my real old sheets. But notice there is a small drill press vise and a larger one. And remember, these were casting kit. They weren't casting kits. They were plaster patterns. And the purpose of the plaster patterns was for the teacher. These were sold to school. The teacher could make aluminum working patterns from that, throw away the plaster because they would be very, very fragile, and proceed to have their classes make any one of these projects, but I'm really talking about vises right now. So that vise was about the size of the average 2.5-inch pomegranate vise, and it came complete with instructions and all of that. And let me show you the original blueprints. There are some more pictures of it. That's my original artwork, if you want to call it artwork. Back when we took photographs with Kodak film. This is probably from the late 60s even. And that's the large drill press vise. It was 4 inches across there. But here's the original drawing that I made, and I still found the tracings. I can't believe that I did save some of that stuff. It has steel jaws, and I recommended that they make it with Acme thread. Let's see, this is, yeah, with an Acme thread. Now, what I wanted to show you here is a couple things. First of all, this was a different system of fastening the screw into the vise jaw, because this is hard for a student to do, believe it or not. It's very, very difficult. They goof up a lot of them. So the whole idea here was that on the back of the jaw, or I should say the front of the jaw, see this little groove in large space? The screw went through. Where's the screw at here? And a snap ring groove was put in place. So you would assemble that, put a snap ring on it, and then there were jaw plates, of course. Where's the jaw plates? I don't know. But you can see that in the drawings, or in the photographs, that there are jaw plates. This is one of the earlier ones before I changed the design, and it used the screw in the pictures, but the drawings called for the snap ring. But of course the teacher could make it any way they wanted. Some of my critics said you should have made the keeper here longer, and they're right, but I would have had to extend the slot a little bit, but that would have been possible. But notice this on this Japanese vise, that's exactly what they did. Notice the length of the jaw, but that's what I did back in 1968, or whenever these were designed. Notice the extra length of the jaw. That one did not have it. That's the large one. Why? Yeah, that's the large one. So I had done that, and if you look here at the drawing, you can see that the jaw plate, or the, no, those are the jaws. Okay, I haven't looked at these in years and years and years. There's the sliding plate, is what I called it back then. Yeah, I made those drawings along with the other 10 projects, and this was 2 3/8 wide. I wonder if anybody's still with me watching this. On this vise, when you turn it upside down, it's not going to set level. Nor do most of these vises have that feature, but this larger palm grain vise here, notice that this is machined at the same level as this, so it could be turned upside down. Well, why do you want it upside down? Well, there are times when you do. But the vises that I had designed, along with my brother, we worked on this together, that had the same height here as it did over on the jaw. That also helped in setting it up on the milling machines when the students were making these. And remember, hundreds of these were made. And you're going to say, what good is an aluminum vise? Well, yes, maybe it is marginal, but that's what we were able to do in school shop. We weren't able to cast iron, nor could we afford the expensive struck castings. I just mentioned that I used a V-thread, not an Acme. Why? Because an Acme tap costs 75 or 150 bucks. It's just not practical for you at home to get use an Acme tap. So we have to use V, but virtually all of the vises you see here use V-threads, except there's a couple with a buttress thread, but that's another story. But notice that this large palm grain features an Acme, but what I find a little humorous is that the smallest vises on this table also feature Acme, where you really don't need any strength at all. This, of course, my favorite here has Acme thread. I bought this palm grain vise 4-inch from a school auction, so this was done at a school. Not that I haven't seen much worse from factories, but nevertheless I thought that it was kind of funny. You can see one screw's been replaced there. That I had vises at school that were so badly drilled through and so many holes that they became rather delicate. And I must tell you that also sometimes these vises were dropped by the kids. They fell off the drill press, or sometimes they'd be drilling an 1¼ inch hole and trying to hold this by hand, and the vise would get swung around, strike the kid in the hand, and end up on the floor. Now when that happened, sometimes the screw got bent. Matter of fact, quite often. So I would either throw the vise away or I have to make a new screw. Not that I didn't have enough maintenance to do in the school shop. But what was even funnier is that I had a vise that was picked so full of holes that when it got thrown off the drill press, it broke in half right through there. And the heavier the vise, the more likely that is to happen. This thing you could throw across the room, and you know, it wouldn't break, but the mass, the momentum, the inertia is here on a big heavy vise. This thing weighs 15 pounds. You will recall when I made the screw, it was extra long, and I said this is way too long, and I shortened it up. Well, in the process of shortening it, which was a foolish move, now I have interference right here with the handle and the lug of the vise. Well, we're always holding something in there. We're not holding a sheet of paper, so you know, it will always be out this far, but I did get some criticism on that. And also, if I had put steel jaws in here along with some V-grooves, that would space it out so it would be more like that in the closed position if there were 2¼ inch plates in there, or 3/16. So that's just another observation. Hindsight has 20/20 vision, you know. Well, remember these lugs were put on this vise to either clamp it onto a drill press, but more specifically this was to be used on the little power hacksaw. And since I don't have a power hacksaw anymore, I just didn't bother putting slots or screws in here. But somebody said, well, then you moron, cut those off. What good are they? So it would look more like this. So I don't know. I'm going to leave it the way it is, at least for now. I didn't get any comments at all on the setup that I use for drilling and tapping the hole, or any notice of how terribly, terribly important that setup is. Because if you don't drill that hole right here and tap it straight, you got nothing. You got scrap iron is what you got. I got an email from a man saying that, I know you mentioned Peterson Products. He said, there's a company in New Mexico still selling these C-clamps. And I said, what? So I looked at the website, and sure enough, there it is. My original patterns here, still being sold as far as I know, along with the blueprints. And, well, it's this C-clamp blueprint, not this one, but shamelessly, Peterson Products is still on the blueprint. I think I'll talk more about that. And what hurt my feelings even more is that on the instructions, remember every one of these came with instructions, it now says copyright with the new man's name, not my name. So that, I guess, was stolen from me. I need a rim shot on that. Check that out. I'm going to talk more about that in another video, if anybody would care. New, yeah, it was new all right, in 1969. I hate to dwell on this, but I sold an awful lot of these. Eventually, I did this without my brother. Originally, it was a partnership, but I took over. He lost interest in it. But I had this catalog page, just like you see here, in all of the big suppliers, the big thick catalogs that went to all the schools. There were 3 of them: Paxton Patterson, Broadhead Garrett, and a third one called Satterley, and they changed the name to Satco. So 98% of my sales for the big micrometer too. I'll talk more about the big micrometer. I found some stuff on that too when I found this file that my wife had stashed away. So am I telling you something that really nobody wants to hear? One final story here about the Struck Company. At the junior college, not too far away from here, the teacher, who was quite a bit older than me, he's 88 now, but he taught there for many years, and he bought the Struck kit for the little bulldozer. Well, this man, he was a wonderful man, but he never finished anything. I mean, never. So that bulldozer, partially completed, sat under the stairwell. And the janitors got so mad because now we got a 12-horse gas engine in there with stale gasoline under the stairwell, and it sat there for years and years and years, and they couldn't clean around it. I don't know what finally happened to it. I suppose it got thrown away. But that's, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, is it not? You know what? I think I've talked quite enough about this vise and beaten it to death. I tend to beat subjects to death. Where's my little picture of a man beating a mule? I need to show that again. But I think I'll do another video talking about drill press vices, the different kinds, the different styles. But you need only one. You don't need 25 vices. This is crazy. Yeah, but I guess I'm a hoarder. I don't need 50 micrometers either. Alright, that's enough talking. This is Tubalcain saying so long for now, and I'll see you in my next video. Leave a comment. A favorable one, please, for a change. You hurt my feelings sometimes.